welcome to Jazz Piano Hub. This video is an introduction to the basics of jazz piano. But before we look at scales, chords and theory, I need to tell you about the most important thing you can learn as a jazz musician: how to play by ear. Jazz is an oral art form, which means it's learned by ear. All great musicians have learnt by listening. You might think that playing by ear is a gift which you're born with, but that's not entirely true. Some people do have perfect pitch, which means they can easily identify pitch without any reference note. This ability is genetic and cannot be learnt, but having perfect pitch doesn't necessarily make you a good musician. There's something more useful which we can learn, called relative pitch. So if you learn nothing else about jazz, learn this. Relative pitch is the ability to recognize intervals relative to a key note. Listen to these notes, and as you hear them, sing them in your mind. Almost everybody will recognize that sound as a scale, a major scale. Don't worry about the note names, but label each pitch 1 to 8. Try to remember the sound of note 1, the key note, as you listen to the other notes. It's really important that you imagine the sound in your mind. Don't worry if you can't do it at first, but singing the notes will really help. Each note has its own character or feeling of tension, which wants to resolve back to the key note. Note 1 is the key note. It has a feeling of home about it. Note 8 is the same. They are both key notes. Note 2 wants to resolve and fall back down to 1. Note 3 sounds balanced, sitting above 1, but wants to fall back down. Note 4 wants to fall back a little to 3, or all the way back to 1. Note 5 is a strong note and sits between the two key notes. It either wants to fall down to 1 or jump up to 8. Note 6 wants to climb up to reach the home note at 8. Note 7 has a real feeling of tension about it and wants to resolve up to 8. If you sing these tones in your mind, you'll soon become familiar with the different characters of each note. Listen to this melody and see if you can work out the numbers which represent each note. There's a lot of benefits in using this system, but the main one for jazz musicians is that we don't need to know which key we're in. As long as we know our 12 major scales, we can transpose and play a tune in all keys. It also gives our brain a template to work with, and our brains love patterns. Once you've learned the patterns, you'll be recognizing notes quite easily. We've looked at just 8 notes of a major scale here, but the remaining 4 notes are easy to recognize once you're familiar with using this system. Remember, you cannot learn jazz without listening to jazz.